packed house tonight, so this is really great to see. It's good to see some familiar faces here as well. Sure, a round of applause for everybody who showed up tonight. Absolutely. This is great that all of you decided to come out and hear from these candidates. We've got a lot of folks to get to. So I think you've kind of heard the layout of the night and how it's going to go. With some of these races, we'll just have time for one question for each candidate, and for some of the others, we will be able to get to multiple questions. By the way, we certainly want to have a civic debate tonight, and that's why we're all here, to hear from these folks who want to represent you and to represent the community. Also, there is a sign-up sheet that's going to be going around, so please make sure that you sign that as well. My name is Scott Light from 10 TV. I just came off the air, so hopped in my car and got here. Thank you very much for this invitation to come out to be with you tonight and to hear from these folks. This is what we do at 10 TV, and we are certainly glad to get this invitation. Why don't we get started? Let's begin with candidates for Common Pleas Court, Domestic 1221. Would those two candidates please come on up? We are looking for George and Dana. There you go. Come on up. And is Dana here? No? Looks like you got the floor to yourself. How about a minute to introduce yourself?
My name's George Leach. Is this on?
Yep.
Yep, all good. And I'm from Youngstown originally. Been in Columbus since '92. Graduated University of Akron. Got a teaching certification, K through 8. Been practicing for about 19 years in domestic court, juvenile law, and adult felony. Been practicing all courts in Central Ohio, including federal and the Court of Appeals. And that's pretty much it.
Okay.
I have 2 boys at home.
Okay, a couple of questions here. What kinds of jobs, interests, or volunteer activities did you pursue during school, law school, and or currently?
I am president of the Ohio Art League currently. I sit on the advisory board for Pathway in Columbus, Ohio, which is a mental health facility that they get to use. It's on Broad Street. I am an artist, and so I donate a lot of artwork to many charities throughout the state and especially in Central Ohio. I've been volunteering mostly art events and children's related events.
Let's get to a couple more questions since we have time. Do you believe the judicial system is free from systemic racism, and why or why not?
That's, well, I will answer that question by saying throughout the campaign trail so far, I've been listening to speeches by mostly the candidates for elected office like state rep in the different districts and Senate races. And so throughout those talks I hear, and I know these things too, but you talk about the income gap between zip codes, you talk about homelessness, you talk about wage differences between, and the effects of race and with application of laws and enforcement of those laws. And so I will tell you that for 19 years as a court-appointed attorney, most of my practice is dealing with families in these zip codes that are referred to as the lesser zip codes, that these are my clients, and I've been working with them to reunite their families, to keep their children out of jails and out of detention centers, to keep adults out of detention centers, to looking for alternatives to juvenile justice locking them up. No more from school to jail. And so
Last thought here.
That's it. That's my time. Thanks.
Okay, and lastly here, as a prospective judge, what do you consider your greatest strengths and your greatest challenges?
My greatest strengths are working with people, because I've been doing it so long, and most of my practice is working with the families that I will serve as domestic relations court judge. These are the people that come in who have lost their children, or are about to lose their children, and children in crisis. The family domestic court is a court of crisis. You don't come there unless you're getting a divorce, unless you have abuse, neglect, dependency issues in your family, or your child is in trouble. And so it's the court that is the most compassionate, and the judge needs to be most compassionate. And that's what I bring to the table.
How about a weakness? How about a challenge? No politician likes to introduce a weakness.
I don't know how, I work now about 70 hours a week at minimum. I don't know how I'll be able to fit it all in if I'm going to work as hard as I do now into just a judge's day. That's the hardest challenge I'll have, probably.
How about Mr. Leach for coming here and talking to you folks? Thank you.
Thank you.
We could have our two candidates for Common Pleas Domestic Court 1321. And with multiple candidates this time, we may just be able to get to one kind of overall question, but first we ask you to take a minute and introduce yourselves. If you would start, please.
Yes, thank you. Is mine on too? Good? Hi, I'm Stephanie Hanna. I am running for Franklin County Common Pleas Domestic Relations and Juvenile Court. I'm running because I believe in our families and children, and I know I can make a difference. I've dedicated my career to helping families and children as a staff attorney in domestic relations and juvenile court, and as a volunteer and a board member for the Children's Hunger Alliance and the YWCA Columbus, both in the Family Center and the Women's Residency Program. It's the busiest court in the state, what I'm running for. So I promise you to be on time, to work a full day, to be fair, to be efficient, to bring new ideas, to move cases along. I'm a wife, I'm a mom, I'm a stepmom. I understand firsthand how this court touches your life directly. And I work hard, I promise to work hard to bring you the very best of me, to allow people who come before me to feel heard and respected. And with your support, I know we can do it. So I appreciate your time and look forward to your support in November.
And your introduction, please.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. My name is Lachelle Stroud. I'm from Columbus, Ohio. My father is a retired Columbus firefighter. My mother is a small business owner. My husband is an educator working in school administration, and we have two wonderful sons. I graduated from The Ohio State University Moritz College of Law 17 years ago, and I've been practicing law the entire 17 years that I've been licensed. During my practice, I've been able to try jury trials, bench trials, argue before the Court of Appeals, as well as the Ohio Supreme Court. During my career, I've been able to work in every single part of domestic relations and juvenile court. In 2001, I served as a legal intern to then Judge Yvette McGee Brown, drafting legal decisions. I've worked in our diversion program as a teen court hearing officer. I've also practiced law as an attorney representing parents and children on both the domestic relations and juvenile court side. And then 6 years ago, I was appointed to the bench to serve as a magistrate judicial hearing officer. I preside every day over abuse, neglect, dependency cases, as well as delinquency cases, and want all of Franklin County to stand proud with Stroud. Thank you.
Okay. And Lachelle, why don't you start us off with the question that we'll be able to get to. What kinds of jobs, interests, or volunteer activities did you pursue during school, law school, or that you pursue now that could be applied to this job?
Thank you. I am very passionate about the work of this court. That's why my very first job was in this court when I was in law school. So all of the jobs that I've pursued have been litigating, representing clients in this court, so representing parents in dissolution and divorce actions, representing children in juvenile and domestic relation actions. I've served as a guardian ad litem in our court. I work in the community. I'm very active in my church. I go around to schools volunteering. I do a lot in the human trafficking arena to make sure that both educators and children are aware of the red flags of human trafficking. I've traveled across the country spreading our model to be able to show other courts what we've done here to address human trafficking from a juvenile court standpoint. I believe that I'm the most experienced in that I'm able to preside over cases every single day. I show up, I'm present, I'm the lead juvenile magistrate, so I have the responsibility of ensuring that our juvenile magistrates department is efficient and that all of us preside over our dockets in a reasonable manner. Thank you.
Okay, you got it in under a minute. Way to go. And same question to you, please.
Yes. So volunteer-wise, I have been very active in our community, always with a focus on families and children. It's just kind of always been a passion of mine. So I have volunteered for the Children's Hunger Alliance, which combats childhood hunger, working with our schools. Hungry kids can't learn, and we have worked to bring meal programs to schools. The YWCA Family Center, worked in the legal clinic there, doing free pro bono legal advice to families, women, and children. I have volunteered at the legal clinics across the county, for over a decade, always looking for ways to work with children and really empower women and children. And I look forward to your support in November.
How about a hand for these two candidates, please? Thank you both. If our candidates for Common Pleas Probate Court would come up, please. And is Zach Space here? You get it solo. How about
So I get 5 minutes to,
We can't give you 5 minutes. Now, don't push it. Do not push it. But you do get a minute to introduce yourself to this crowd.
okay, hi everybody, I hope everybody's doing well. I'm Robert Montgomery, I'm the Franklin County Probate Judge. I've been your probate judge for a little bit over 9 years here in Franklin County. It's been the best job I've ever had. Love the job that and the challenges that it has posed. And it's wonderful to be here. We've had a lot of programs that we've started in Franklin County, and the one thing I just want to get out is we started a pilot program right here in Franklin County, the first public guardian in the state of Ohio. It's a pilot program I started, is doing so well that the legislature passed a law last year, took our program that we're doing right here in Franklin County and made it a statewide model. We transitioned from an attorney-based system to a licensed social worker-based system, and now we got people coming from all over the state that wants to emulate what we're doing here in Franklin County. And so that's just one of the 4 programs that I've started there. Proud to be part of it. We're in the 6th inning. We've got a couple other things we need to do to get done. And that's a big part of why I'm running for re-election, is because I want to get those done.
Okay, a couple of questions here for you. If you observed a party in your courtroom, this has maybe likely happened already. If you observed a party in your courtroom being poorly represented by an unprepared or an ineffective lawyer, how would you handle it?
Well, that's a great question. And what we do have even more than that are people that aren't represented by any attorney. And so it's almost the same approach, because I don't think that if the client has an attorney that maybe took a wrong turn, that they should be penalized for a lawyer that maybe is not doing the right thing. And so what I would probably try to do is maybe get where they need to be by just kind of coaching them in a certain direction, to make sure at the end of the day, when you're a judge, the most important thing is to be fair and to get to the bottom of all the facts. And you shouldn't let just that part of the procedure get in the way of getting to the facts. And so I would probably try to help, but not do anything that would violate the code of judicial conduct as the judicial officer. So I would try to get them where they need to go.
Last question. What would, if you had to boil it down to maybe 3 of your distinct skills that you would bring that others wouldn't to this particular judicial seat, what would those 3 skills be?
It's a great question. Let me tell you, the probate court is unlike any other court in the state at all. And there's one section in the Ohio Revised Code that says we're the superior guardian of over 8,000 wards here in Franklin County. It is the largest single judge jurisdictional court in the state. And what it requires is not somebody that can just have hearings, that has experience on the probate law, but you have to be an effective administrator. I've got 14 magistrate judges that work with me, 75 employees. The probate court's so unique that I'm actually elected to 2 positions. When you run for probate judge, you're not elected just probate judge, you're also elected clerk of your own court, because what we do is so unique it wouldn't fit in with the other clerks. So you need to be knowledgeable in the probate law, you need to be an effective administrator, and there's a lot of moving parts. A lot of people don't realize this, but did you know that the Metro Parks falls under the Franklin County probate judge? Point to the Board of Developmental Disabilities, appoint to the Columbus Metropolitan Housing Authority Board, I appoint to the Columbus Foundation. So there's a lot of moving parts there. So you need to be an administrator, you need to be a manager, you need to be a good judicial officer.
How about a hand for Judge Montgomery here? Thank you, Judge.
Thank you very much.
If the candidates for all 5 are here, we like that. So gentlemen, we'll start maybe closest to the podium here. 1 minute to introduce yourself to this crowd of folks tonight.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Mahmoud Jama, and I am not from here. I wasn't born here. I was born in Somalia. My parents and I immigrated to the United States 20 years ago due to civil war that took place in our country. I was born to a family business background. I was raised in Somalia. I finished high school back home. And after the Civil War, we spent 9 years in a refugee camp in another country, in Kenya. So luckily 20 years ago, we was accepted to the United States. And when we got here, we had nothing but, the dream that everyone has when he's coming to this country. We hope that America is the place to live and, start all over again. And, that's what I did. I came here.
And last thought, please. Well, we appreciate your story for sure. If you would pass the microphone, we are trying to keep everybody to a minute on this introduction here. To you, sir.
Thank you very much. My name is Kofi Siafra. Kofi means born on Friday. I'm a professor of political science, Ohio Northern University. I specialize in international politics, American politics, public policy, and conflict resolution. My master's is in international human rights law from Essex University, UK. My bachelor's is from Ghana, social sciences and teacher certification. I'm a veteran of the Ghana Armed Forces, an officer of the Ghana Armed Forces, a paratrooper, and I had a chance to work with the United Nations as a peacekeeper during the Rwandan genocide in the conflict, Sierra Leone conflict and Liberia conflict. This is where I learned the skills of negotiations, conflict resolution, and diplomacy. These are very much required in today's and contemporary Republican-dominated General Assembly. I was born in Ghana and I faced the worst of humanity, poverty, poor housing, poor education. But I am who I am today because of.
Thank you.
Hi, Gary Josephson. If you see my flyer, I've been around for many years as an activist, peace activist. I started, and when I got active in that, I was at Ohio State University, but I was hired at Camacco by Dorothy Brown, Carl Brown's wife, and I served on their board after I was working there. Then I got involved in a labor union at Ohio State. I became president and represented there at an Ohio Secretary of State's office. And I've been an activist all that time. Currently, I have a part-time job at OSU where I interview youth in my district. And so I've been close to these issues that affect our district. And this district is very diverse. It goes from the airport and Easton all the way to some more troubled areas. So my job would be to represent everybody in that district, not just taxpayers, and I think I can make a difference by my years of representation.
All right, thank you.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Dontavius Gerald. I'm running because I believe a better Ohio starts with all of us. I worked in the State House. I actually cut my teeth in policy in the State House, working for a myriad of different legislators. And now I have over 10 years of public policy experience, especially working in mental health and addiction, which is a huge issue that impacts the district, but also the state of Ohio. I'm running because at the end of the day, we need to have representation and a person who understands where the bathrooms are in the State House, understands how to connect the issues in the community to policy that ultimately leads to solution. Because we have to build a district that we all deserve, and to get there, it requires all of our voices at the table. Outside of work, I've done a lot of work to really tackle some of the inequalities of not just this district, really the state of Ohio, working on issues like mental health and addiction, dealing with our disparities of access to care, making sure that we're creating an organization like the Columbus African Council where we're bridging together the African diaspora and really doing everything we can to uplift and empower people to see the power that they have.
All right. And our fifth and final candidate.
Thank you much. My name is Mayo McKinday. Was born 2 streets south of the district that we all want to serve in, Brandon Road and at the old St. Anne's Hospital. Went to Eastmore High School, proud graduate of Eastmore High School, go Warriors. And I went to college, played football, came back, tried out for the NFL. When that did not work out, came back home and got involved in the community. So ever since I came back, never stopped volunteering in the community and in the party. There's not one elected official that's been in the party that cannot say I can help them out and get in an office. As Ward representative in the Democratic Party, as well as being the president of East Columbus Civic Association, and today I'm a South Linden Area Commissioner. So I'm a community organizer. I fight for the community. That's what my passion is on. I was part of the founding fathers of Ohio Young Black Democrats, because I feel like some kind of way the young Democrats need to be the folks who work at the State House and need to pass any kind of thing going on in the State House, pass that over to the community so that there can be some communication going back and forth into the community and the State House. So these are stuff that I think that are very important to address, and I'm glad to be here.
And Mr. McKinday, why don't you start us off on the questions? What, if elected, what would be your #1 priority if elected to office?
Thank you. My #1 priority is economic development. I think that out of every issue that we deal with in our society, at the core of it is issue of poverty. If you think about issue of crime and all that stuff, nobody's going to go commit a crime if they can feed themselves. My mom raised me on three jobs. I was going to college from East Mars because she had to work 3 jobs. She worked at MRDD, she worked at Columbus Public School as a substitute teacher, and worked at Walmart, a horrible Walmart, by the way. But so she worked at all those jobs just to send me to school, and I don't think anybody should be working any extra job if they're working 40 hours a week. I think it's just ridiculous. I myself came out of school and worked at a county agency, and I was being paid less than $15 an hour, and people came in here looking TANF people that came in to get food stamps and all this benefits, and they thought that we were getting paid a whole lot more money. People that worked the job and family service thought we were getting a whole lot more money, but
Okay.
they did not know that we were just like them.
All right, Mr. Gerald, #1 priority.
On day one of the biggest things I'm going to be fighting for is housing. We know that in this district in particular, property taxes have been going up and leaving many of our elderly and also other individuals who have more house and have money in a position where they may lose their home. The secondary part to that is evictions. I don't know if anyone knew this or not, but 9 people a day get evicted from the 25th House District. 9 people a day. And so when you think about what housing means for families, not just to empower themselves, but to thrive, there's a lot of work that we need to do. And so one of the biggest things I'm going to do is push for a circuit breaker tax exemption, which allows people who have more house and have money the supports and provide them with access so that they can reduce not just their property taxes, but work to get other supports that help them keep their homes. That is the biggest thing that's affecting this district, and I'm going to be proud to, on day one, and fight for that on behalf of my constituents.
Mr. Josephson, your #1 priority.
Yes, about a year, maybe a couple years ago, there was a woman killed at James and Broad who was just standing in a bus stop. Well, it's been for years, I've seen people at the bus stops who really unprotected from the weather, and they're old, they're young, and I think that when they raised the gas tax, I immediately thought, why aren't they doing something to make that a better situation for people who can't afford cars? So to get around, that would help jobs. I work with youth and employment, and so I believe that that's where I would also be a big help in getting. I'm interested in the development that brings jobs. When I was first come to Columbus, if you quit school, you could always walk into a well-paying job. That isn't true anymore, and it isn't even true for the people who are going to school. So there's a lot in that area that needs to be worked on.
Okay.
Thank you.
Kofi.
Thank you very much. My prime target is Economic Empowerment Act. First and foremost, in District 25, the median income is $35.1 compared to District 52, which is $91.4. Remarkable disparity here. And there is a domino effect when there is poverty, poor housing, lack of affordable healthcare, gun violence, poor education in our district. Our district is rated F. We just escaped F. We just got a D. And that was susceptible to state capture. So #1, first and foremost, we need to have workforce development. We're going to train the people to be able to have higher paying jobs. I'm going to promote small businesses by, first and foremost, having access to loans. Give them incentives, for example, to be able to promote their businesses. We can write off tax incentives like writing off R&D costs and also equipment, cost of equipment.
All right, thank you. And Mohammed, your #1 priority if elected.
day one, my priority will be strengthening education system. You know, the kids and the youth are the future of this community and this district. There are kids that are attending schools that has no proper ventilation and no textbooks from day one. I will start working on reforming the formulas that are to get Columbus city schools the fair share of the funds for the education that they need to get the resources they need. I will also empower small business opportunities, because once we get, once our small businesses thrive, our economy thrives. And District 25 is one of the poorest districts in the state of Ohio. We need to improve that, create jobs, increase the minimum wage to $15. I will fight whatever it takes to improve the education and empower business and create employment opportunities for the people of District 25.
Thank you. Second question, Gary, why don't you start us off here, right there in the middle? Your thoughts on introducing legislation that would require police officers to mandatory drug testing if involved in officer-involved shootings, and that the investigation be done outside the police department?
Yes.
Well, I think for a long time, I believe that that police organizations are run by police sergeants and sheriffs. These are professionals, but I for a long time think that there should be civilian control of our military as well as our police. So there needs to be a civilian authority and one who is independent enough to have investigations and make sure that the people are serving the public and not just for the law enforcement, their profession. That's a profession, but a profession that needs oversight.
Okay, Kofi, to you.
Thank you very much. I had opportunity as a peacekeeper in Rwanda and so many other places, and that is exactly what I did in terms of law enforcement. It saddens my heart. We are supposed to be peacekeepers. We are not supposed to violate the rights of the people we are supposed to protect. So first and foremost, we need to have accountability. We have to subject them to accountability. In other words, we got to punish anybody who violates the law against the civilian. That is very important. I do support that mandatory drug test. And the next point is that we have to have a civilian oversight, and that is exactly what we did in national security and also in various areas. And in addition to that, I will encourage the civilian, the police to live in the various districts that they serve. This will enhance confidence in their capacity, and this will establish cordial relationship between the law enforcement as well as well as the civilians that they're supposed to protect.
Mohammed, same question to you, please.
I believe that we should give our officers proper training into to how to handle with and to deal with diversified communities. They should have. I would encourage that they get the trainings they need to deal with people in general. And I support the issue of the drug testing police officers. But I believe at the same time that our officers already get drug tested when they are getting employed. And that's something that happens periodically. It's not something that we are encouraging whenever something happens. We need to give them proper training on how to deal with all people, regardless of race, ethnicity, religion. Thank you.
And Dontavius, same question to you, please.
So yes, 100%. I think that we should definitely have a civilian oversight committee to, especially in cases where there is a law enforcement officer that can kill someone. I also think that we need to, which is really critical, that we need to figure out and connect our young people into the pipeline to also become a part of our community through law enforcement. You know, when you look at the graduating classes, you don't necessarily see a lot of us that are on the stage. And we got to increase that number, especially if we want individuals who have the cultural competence to understand and navigate our communities. I also think, to Jama's point, that we do need to increase our cultural and linguistic competence for our police officers. We need to be hiring more Somali, Nigerian, Ethiopian, Eritrean officers so that when we are dealing with crises, particularly mental health crises in the community, we understand the cultural and linguistic dynamics so that we can get those people help. And so there's a lot of work that we have to do. As a state rep, that's something I want to do.
Okay, Mayo, last question, or that same question to you, please.
It's good. Everyone here is saying similar things, and I do agree with what everybody's saying in the sense of trying to make this better. The question is, are we going to have an executive branch that's going to do the execution of this? The governor had a commission for police and community relations probably like about a few years ago, and he gave most of the suggestions were given. But I don't see anything being followed, none of this being followed through on it. So we need a representative that can make sure that they can put pressure on the governor's office to make sure these things are done. Somebody needs to talk to law enforcement agencies so they can understand that it's not about just the blue band, it's about the red, white, and blue band. That's what we saw. We saw the red, white. There's no reason why you should think that it's about your fraternity. And because I used to work at the sheriff's office, and I got that sense a lot when I got into roll call. It was more about how we can keep ourselves safe, until end of shift, then we move to the next shift. And there were a lot of things nothing that I wanted to go help change at the State House, because I feel like there should not be any reason why it should be moving in from a different county as a 17-year-old.
All right, thank you. Davis, why don't you start us off on the next question? Let's talk specifically about supporting the growth and development of Black businesses. What would you do specifically to do that?
Yeah, so one of the things that I think is very, very important is making sure, so I don't know if anyone knew this or not, but our general revenue fund, or the budget that was just passed by July 1, it was $148 billion. One of the things that I want to do is make sure that we take out of that $148 billion, we figure out how much money is being allocated to minority-owned businesses and provided to organizations so that we can support infrastructure. We also have to do something around the capital budget. The capital budget is being discussed right now, and most folks don't even know how to even get into the process to be a part of the infrastructure developments that are happening across the state. As state representative, I'm going to remove those barriers to access, create opportunities and learning spaces where we, particularly minority-owned businesses, can get access to those opportunities, and then fight like no other to make sure that we do that. It makes no sense that we have a legislation that folks are touting, but unfortunately, we're still not seeing the change that we deserve in our communities.
Pass the mic to Mayo, and then we'll work our way back up.
So, in the sense of, I work for National Association of Minority Contractors. I'm an executive director, and the fight goes on. We had our House Bill 485. I'm sorry. This bill was a bill that was passed when I was born. It's a bill that has been challenged by the General Contractors Association in 1999. They stripped out part that would make this the fair side of making sure we get fair structure and making sure minorities get their fair share in construction and contracting. It's been stripped up. You need somebody that can bring a modern day House Bill 584 into light. Someone that can make sure that minorities and women can get their fair share in construction and contracting and in jobs. That's key. Someone that's going to fight, that's going to let them know that the fight is not over. So that's what I would do. I think that, we can sit here, but when the law's not in the books no more, and we're sitting here, we can just talk as much as we want, but somebody got to put the law back in the books to make sure we can fight for minority rights.
Okay. Gary, same question to you, please.
Yeah, there's a lot of big corporations that have big box stores out in the suburbs. It seems to me that there should be, these should not be company-owned. They should be franchises. So it seems to me that where there are stores that would be located from these same big name brands and non-name brands, they should be franchises. Make local capitalists be able to serve their community, and I'm sure that there's enough talent within this community to be the managers and be the owners of these businesses. Now, other small businesses, where these big businesses thrive, small businesses nearby associate and they also do well. So I think when a mall comes in, they look for an anchor. Well, the same kind of thing should happen here, to anchor some big stores or some well-known stores with franchises, and then support the local stores that will, and businesses that will grow up nearby.
Okay, Kofi, to you, please.
Yeah, thank you very much. This is exactly what I said, my Economic Empowerment Act. First and foremost, we need to boost their confidence that they can do it. It can be done. Number two, they need to have, there should be equitable access to financial and business laws. So that should be done as quickly as possible in order for them to remain very competitive and competing with the big corporations and big organizations. We can do very well by giving them tax incentives. And like I said, we can write off the R&D costs and also expenditure on equipment, business equipment. That is very, very important. We also have to think of rewarding the various that remain good businesses and also employ and retain employees within their communities. And also those who support internships and give confidence and growth to the youth and within their district. Very important. No business thrives without neighborhood development. And so we require infrastructural development in those areas. And that includes roads and schools and etc.
All right, thank you. And Mohammed, you'll have the last word here.
Yeah, as a small business owner, I know the struggles that small businesses go through, especially this small business owned by minorities, women. That's the reason I want to empower small businesses. Small businesses, everyone has an idea to create a small business. And once they start, businesses fail quick because people do not understand how to start a small business to begin with. That's the reason in my plan I want to start a small business incubation center from day one, where they get trained and given seminars on how to start business and how to comply with the law when you start a business. Many businesses fail, small businesses fail because of failure to compliance. And they need training on how to do payroll, how to do workers' compensation. They fail because they cannot keep their employees. Because employees need employers that can provide them.
That'll have to be the last word. I'm watching the clock here, so I'm trying to stay on time with the whole night to respect their time and to respect your time. How about a round of applause for these five candidates, please? Gentlemen, thank you. All right, we're going to just keep it right on rolling here. If you would introduce yourself, take a minute, please.
My name is Attorney Josh Brown. I grew up just south of here in the Columbus area. I'm a combat veteran. I served in the Army for 8 years. I practiced law here in Columbus, Ohio. I focus on litigation and bankruptcy. I have a history working with people in this community and people who are in the worst spots in their lives. So I have an understanding and a empathy for people that are in very, very tough financial situations. So I want to take that to the court so I can serve you, take that experience, and put it to work for the people in this community who really need it. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Carl Avaney. I am running for the Court of Common Pleas because judges matter. I'm going to say that again. Judges matter. Judges affect people's lives more directly than any other branch of government, for better or for worse. And you want to have a judge that has had enough life experience and enough work experience to understand the issues that appear before you. I have 24 years of experience as a trial lawyer and litigator all over the state of Ohio. It has been my rare privilege to practice in every court that has jurisdiction over Franklin County, from the municipal court up to the Court of Common Pleas, over to the domestic court, up to the probate court, to the 10th District Court of Appeals, and I've had the rare privilege of trying and succeeding in front of the Ohio Supreme Court. And there aren't a lot of lawyers in town that have had that sort of experience. It has always been my hope that the first half of my career would be about taking care of my family and the obligations that come with that. But if the public would have me, the back half of my career would be about public service. I ask for your support.
All right, you can stay standing. Why don't we start with you on this question. Who are your judicial role models, and why are they your role models?
Well, I have several. Thurgood Marshall is, I have a picture of Thurgood Marshall over my desk in my office, and it is because he was one of the best jurists in America. And when I say that, what I mean is that he had a combination of scholarship and intellectual rigor and all of the qualities that you want in an unbiased judge, but at the same time, he had a profound sense of compassion and a deep sense of personal humility. And I can't imagine a better combination for any judge serving on the bench.
Okay, Mr. Brown, same question to you.
Thank you. Probably my biggest inspiration is someone who's fictional, which is Atticus Finch, and from the story To Kill a Mockingbird. In my practice, I have a lot of young men and women sit in front of me, right in front of my desk, and tell me their story. And what I hear is people who get themselves in these bad financial situations or in a bad criminal situation or whatever it is, and you ask them, how did you get here? And how can we make sure you're not in front of me again? Because people in front of me are in the worst situations there are. And a lot of them feel like they were treated unfairly. And a lot of them feel like they were raised in a bad situation. And when you're a judge, the thing I promise to you and the thing that I think is most important is reaching out into the community. You need to listen a lot. And I've promised a lot of people in this room already to listen, to go into the community. And when I'm on the bench, what I want to do is I want to hear the story. I want to hear, how did we get here? And what can we do to make sure you're not here again? I want a defendant to walk away, it's the golden rule. I want to treat them the way I would want to be treated if I was in that situation.
We'll have to stop you there. Let's stay on time. How about a round of applause for these two gentlemen who run?
Good evening. My name is Jennifer French. I'm a judge currently on the Common Pleas Court in Franklin County General Division. I was born and raised in Columbus, Ohio. My father is a retired truck driver. My mom was a homemaker. I'm currently a wife and a mother of 3 children. I have been on the bench now for 5 years. I'm running for re-election this year. Prior to that, I was a trial attorney for 14 years, both in San Diego, California, as well as Columbus. So thank you so much for being here tonight.
Hi, my name's Andy Miller, and I'm running for judge on the Franklin County Court of Common Pleas. I was born in Dayton, Ohio, and I'm a proud product of Northmont City Schools, Ohio University, and the Ohio State College of Law. I started law school back in 1998, and since that day forward, I've absolutely devoted my life to the law, not just as a profession or a means by which I was going to make a living, but as an intellectual exercise and an academic passion. I've done a lot of things in the 19 years that I've been admitted to the practice of law. I've been a clerk to one federal appellate judge, clerk to another federal trial judge. I've worked in a multinational law firm as a litigation associate. I've even taught law as a professor. But for the past 10 years, I've served the people of the city of Columbus as an assistant city attorney, and these past 10 years have been the most rewarding of my professional life. There's a pride in public service. There's an honor in knowing that I've put my time and my efforts for the good of the people, for the good of the public.
Let that be the last statement on your opening, but stay there for this question. Tell us how you're involved civically in Central Ohio or around the state, and how that connects you to the wants and needs of Ohioans.
Well, my civic engagement, it stems from different activities that I would participate in. It starts with a lot of work with my wife's church. I'm also a member of the church back home in Dayton. We participate in things like the Hilliard Food Bank, and we're working currently with the Volunteer Income Tax Assistance Program to the City Attorney's Office. This basically gives me a sense of what's going on in the world outside of the home that I live in. I live in my own little world, I recognize my own little bubble, and it's going out and participating in these things and seeing the kind of need that people need in these volunteer organizations helps you really understand what it is that gets you outside of your own head and makes you look a little more strategically, a little more creatively at the world around you.
Okay. Judge, would you answer the same question, please?
Certainly, thank you. Prior to becoming a judge, I was actually a member of the Westboro City Council, and that led me to run for judge because I recognized that local government really can work. There's something to be said for being able to effectuate change. And so that, I'm also very involved in my church, I'm very involved in my children's school, and certainly some volunteer with WARM in the Westboro area, as well as the Humane Society. But all of those things in and of themselves culminate really to just meeting different people and being out there. And through my campaign in 2014, I was so fortunate to be able to go out into parts of Franklin County that I had never been in. I'm very involved with Family Missionary Baptist Church with Pastor Lamar. I'm there all the time, helping him with things, and Pastor Reeves. So I've been fortunate in my campaign in 14 to be able to add to my civic duties that help me to understand the community as a whole. Thank you.
Jennifer French and Andy Miller, how about a round of applause for both of them, please? Thank you. Well, you get 2 questions then. How about that? 2 questions. Okay. Would you introduce yourself to these fine folks here?
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Judge David Young. I'm currently on the Franklin County Common Pleas Court. It's been a pleasure to have served the community of Franklin County for the past 8 years. I originally was elected as municipal court judge in 2014, ran and was elected as a common pleas judge. Prior to that, I practiced law for 26 years. So I'm older than I really look, I hope. But I've been actively practicing law for the last 34 years.
What's the best thing about being a judge, and what's the most challenging thing?
The best thing about being a judge, when I was in municipal court, I had the opportunity to be chairperson of the specialized docket. What the specialized dockets are dockets for the mental health, the veterans, the drug courts, and then the prostitution courts. And you're really able to have an opportunity to help certain people. Common pleas, we don't get as much opportunity to actually help. We try to deal with the opioid crisis and various drug issues, but it's the most difficult part of being a judge is there are certain cases that we've seen, and that I've seen since I've taken the bench, in which people do really horrible, horrible things to people, and that's very difficult to handle.
Who's your judicial role model and why?
There was a judge that has since retired. His name was Judge Dan Hogan. He was here in Franklin County, and I observed him when I practiced for the 26 years. And the greatest thing he did was allow people to speak in court. Gave them the respect that they deserved, and I fashioned my entire judicial temperament based upon his calm, cool, compassionate position.
Okay. How about a round of applause for the judge? Thank you. So we have representatives here, both pro and con, for issue 21, Columbus State Community College bond. All right, we'll take a minute. Introduce yourselves, please. And sir, you're closest to me. Go ahead and start if you would.
Hi everybody, my name is Joe Motil, and I'm a lifelong resident of Columbus, 30-plus year advocate for fairness and opportunity in the neighborhoods of Columbus, and a former candidate for Columbus City Council and state representative. I'm here this evening speaking as a member of the organization of taxpayers for fair taxation. Thank you.
And I'm Dave Harrison. I'm president of Columbus State Community College, where I've been honored to serve for the last 10 years. We are pleased to be here to be able to discuss issue 21, which will enable Columbus State to expand opportunities for affordable pathways to good jobs and successful careers for all of our citizens in our community.
Dave, why don't we start with you? How will this funding be used specifically if it passes?
100% of it will go to capital investment. The average age of our buildings on our Columbus campus is 45 years old. We have done a great job of being good stewards of the resources that have been entrusted to us. We're in a position where we are trying to get ahead of the future of work and take these 45-year-old buildings and make sure that they are preparing students for in-demand jobs in healthcare, information technology, advanced manufacturing, public safety, construction trades, We've got really good partnerships with employers and others in the community. The rate determining step for many of our programs is the ability to provide upgraded, updated, state-of-the-art classrooms and technology, trying to make the learning environments look and feel and function like the high-performance workplace.
Joe, what's your response to that? Talking about where the money would go.
Right. The issue here is, I mean, first of all, both of my children attended Columbus State College. I have a lot of friends that teach there, have retired from there. It's a great institution. Everybody in this room would agree to that. Right. But let's be clear, this is really about our state legislatures and our governor dropping the ball, not funding as a priority our state colleges. So what they did was they initiated legislation that permits state colleges to ask the property tax owners to pay for the funding there. So in essence, this isn't a priority as far as we're concerned of the state legislatures, which we actually have 12 here in the Franklin County area that could be doing some good lobbying, you know, with the governor and through the state house to get additional funding. But it is the responsibility of the state of Ohio and not the property tax owners of this city. We are already in an affordable housing crisis, people, and we all know that. And by raising our property taxes, it's going to make that worse. And when we have a city council and a school board that's giving away hundreds of millions of dollars in property tax revenue, who aren't paying their fair share of property taxes and placing the burden on you folks.
That'll have to be the last time. So, probably a lot of people on all sides would agree that there is less money coming from the State House down to localities. But getting to what Dave just mentioned, so if this doesn't pass, Joe, to you, what should Columbus State do in order to, again, stay ahead of the workforce and making sure that those students are getting the best education possible?
You know, that's up to Columbus State, and if President Harrison would like to appoint me to his board of trustees, I'd be more than happy to help.
Our board is supported by the governor, so you got to talk to somebody.
Seriously though, you know, again, this is a responsibility of the state legislatures to address. And sure, there's things you could do. What's interesting is the $1 million+ being spent by the PAC that is funding this campaign are property tax abatement recipients and companies who rely on people from Columbus State to work for them. And they're not paying their fair share of property taxes. So what's wrong with that? Why aren't they donating more money, $200,000 from AEP or Ohio Health or Huntington and companies like that who are tax abatement recipients not paying their property taxes, donating money towards Columbus State rather than a PAC fund to force you to pay for this?
All right, your minute is up. Dave, your response to that, please.
For us, this is about students and the ability for us to create a pathway for students to get a better job and sustain a career. The investment, the public investment that's required is really important because one of the contributors to income inequality has been the fact that education has become more a private good than a public good. So the ability for us to, in this case, it's less than $2 a month per $100,000 in property value to give the opportunity for students to have a guaranteed access to an affordable pathway to a good job and a successful career is something that the folks that I've talked to in the communities that I've been in, it's an investment in the collective good that people are willing to make.
Let's thank these two gentlemen for coming here. Thank you. Court 7221, Chris and Michael. Chris Brown and Michael Carlton. Is Michael here? We may have time for 2 questions with you. Introduce yourself to these folks.
Hi, good evening. I'm Judge Chris Brown in the Court of Common Pleas. It's nice to speak in an arena where my South High School mascot is hanging and proudly displayed. I went to Columbus South High School. I grew up about a mile from here. I went to Ohio State and then Capital Law School. I've worked as an assistant county prosecutor for 6 years in the Special Victims Unit. Then I did criminal defense work for 3 years for Scott Wiseman, defending people charged with offenses. I was elected to the bench in 2014 as one of the youngest judges in the state of Ohio, and I'm asking for your vote this November.
Why are you running?
I have the best job in the world, quite frankly. I love my job. It's the first job I've ever had where I don't like slump my shoulders and be like, oh, I gotta go to work. Like, I love this job. I get to help people. I get to interact with the people that I grew up with in the communities that I'm from. It's just that I'm able to affect change on a very personal, day-to-day level in a way that I don't think there are a few other jobs out there that can have the impact that I have on the bench.
Talk about what you do out there in the community, away from the job, that again connects you to the needs and wants of everyday Ohioans.
I'm on the, well, I used to be a member of the Board of Trustees of Alvis. The mission of Alvis is to reintegrate people into the community who are being released from prison, to get them established with housing, with employment. I was on the Board of Trustees for that group until last year. I'm also on the board, the Judicial Advisory Board for the Community-Based Correctional Facility, CBCF. I'm on that group where they do a similar function, getting people, moving people from prison back into the community and ensuring that they're not reoffending and helping them put their lives back together.
Do you think a judge is a mentor in the community?
Yes, absolutely. I do a lot of work with high school groups, college groups, people who are interested in the law but don't know a lot about it, how to get into it. I do work all over, doing mock trials and kind of guiding people. I take on an intern every summer to help teach him or her kind of what we do and make, give them an understanding. The court system, the judicial system is kind of confusing sometimes. A lot of people, the average voter, may not understand every part of your life that we touch. If you're being foreclosed upon, if you're in a car accident, if you're charged with an offense, people don't care about their judges until they're standing in front of one. And so, I want you to, whoever you vote for this year, study your judges, find out what they believe in, what they stand for, what they've done, and make an informed choice so that you know exactly who it is. If you're in that situation where you're standing in front of a judge, you know what you're getting.
Okay. Round of applause for Judge here. Thank you.
Everyone.
We'll stay on the Common Pleas theme. If Cheryl and Gina, if they're here, if they come on up. Go and introduce yourself. Take a minute.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Gina Russo. I'm a judge on the Franklin County Common Pleas Court, General Division. Just prior to taking the bench, I was serving the citizens of Franklin County as an assistant prosecuting attorney. And then prior to that, I was a civil litigator at a civil litigation firm here for 10 years. I have 17 years of practice as a lawyer. I am a fur baby mother, a daughter, an aunt, and an advocate for our community. So thank you for having me here.
Introduce yourself, please.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Cheryl Munson. I am running again for the General Division of Common Pleas. I was born and raised in Marion, Ohio. I came here to undergrad to Ohio State. I went to Ohio State Law School. In 1993, I became a law clerk at the Public Defender's Office, Franklin County Public Defender's Office, and I've been there for 26 years. 21 years in Common Pleas, where I work now, dedicating my life to representing people who other people have thrown away or attempting to throw away, people from underserved communities, communities that are not being served. Right now, in the Common Pleas bench, there are no public defenders. There are former prosecutors, there are civil attorneys, there are private defense attorneys, there are no public defenders. And in my mind, that community is unrepresented, is being underserved. I want to go to the bench and make sure that everyone that comes in to the courtroom, no matter what they look like, where they come from, or how much money they have in their pocket, is getting equal treatment.
Why don't you start with our first question, Cheryl, if you would. What is, in your mind, what's the #1 character trait a judge should have?
Fairness is obviously up there. If I have to give #1, only one?
It's your minute.
All right, I'm going to say fairness and compassion because, again, people coming in that experience, this is usually the worst experience of their lives. And they're coming in very vulnerable. They don't feel heard, and it's your job to hear them. And again, I believe that no person should be defined by the worst thing that they have ever done. I don't believe that mass incarceration is working. We've got to turn things around. We have to put people back in a place where they can do better, and I think that's the biggest role that a judge can play. And again, compassion and fairness comes into that. Thank you.
Okay, same question to you, Judge.
Thank you. I believe both empathy and experience are the most important qualities a judge can have. Right now, last month I had 598 cases on my docket. 60% of those cases were civil and 40% were criminal. I have both experience in both of those practice areas of law. As an assistant prosecutor, I dedicated myself to protecting the citizens of Franklin County. As a judge, I do not believe in mass incarceration, but I do have the experience to incarcerate where it is reasonable, necessary, and appropriate. We have something here that prevents mass incarceration, and I do follow the law. Civil cases are important too, and you do have to have experience there. Personal injury, workers' comp, unemployment compensation, all of those cases, wrongful death. I have handled those cases. I've tried them in state and federal cases throughout the state of Ohio. You want a judge with experience, you want a judge who knows what they're doing, and I am that judge. Thank you so much.
Let's say thanks to both of these ladies for coming in tonight. Thank you. This is for Ohio Court of Appeals. If Michael and Colleen would come up, they're here. Take a minute and introduce yourself, please.
Thanks. Good evening, everyone. My name is Judge Colleen O'Donnell. I've been your Common Pleas judge for the last 7 years, and this year I'm running to serve on the 10th District Court of Appeals. Before serving as a judge in the Common Pleas Court for 7 years, I worked for a federal judge. I worked in private practice, litigating on the trial and appellate levels in state and federal courts entirely throughout the state of Ohio. I started my legal career at the Ohio Attorney General's office, representing aggrieved consumers in the consumer protection section. So I am well versed in the law. I have dedicated my career to litigation, and on the personal side, I'm dedicated, of course, to my family, like so many of us are. I'm married, I have 2 small children. They're 5 and 2. I'm missing their bedtime right now, but I'm hoping when they're older, they recognize it's for a good cause.
Okay.
Well, first, good evening, and thank you all for being here. And I want to thank also the Coalition of Concerned Black Citizens, Weigh the Facts, and the League for having us here. Thank you, Scott. I come here to run for the 10th District Court of Appeals as well. And I come with 32 years of legal experience. Cheryl just mentioned how she started out as a public defender and clerked and was there. I did the same thing. My first job while I was in law school and getting out of law school was as a public defender. I moved on to the Ohio EPA, became a supervising attorney where I was going after corporate polluters who were doing toxic dumps in our neighborhoods and communities to help get that cleaned up. I then also, in private practice, I'm now working on energy and environmental so that we can have a clean planet, so we can have clean communities and keep ourselves safe. The other part of you all may recognize me from, and I know there's some friends out there, is when I served on the Columbus City Council for 12 years and as its president. And part of that, where I was very proud of, is passing and pushing for the first assault weapons ban that the city ever had.
That'll have to be the last on your introduction. But you can stay right there. And for this question, tell us how specifically your resume, your experience, again, your involvement in the community, civic engagement, how your resume specifically fits for serving on the appellate court.
I think it fits specifically because my resume shows where I have met people where they are. When you go out to a homeless encampment and you meet with them and try to find out why they're homeless, not just write them off, you've met somebody there. When you've been a public defender and you look at somebody and you're working with them because they're getting sentenced and they need to work through that because they have a family, they have to work through their challenges, and you meet them where they are. You have to be able to bring specifically and have that experience to look at what are you going to do through their eyes, not my eyes. We can apply the law, we're going to apply the facts, but where do you have to be where you meet people. You have to be where they are. My resume shows that. I encourage you to go to mikemental.com. You can look there. It shows my history. It shows what I've done civically, and including my 32 years of legal experience.
Okay, same question to you, Colleen.
Thank you. So I think as an appellate court judge, you have to be focused on the law. You have to be dedicated to interpreting the law. And while certainly we want our judges to be able to read a transcript and identify the legal issues and the factual and procedural outlay of a case, appellate courts are specifically designed to correct legal errors. And so, as so many of the folks that practice before me know, I have memorized statutes word for word. These are things that I have devoted myself to, and I've dedicated my heart and my mind to understanding them, so that as an appellate court judge, we can correct legal errors. If justice wasn't done because the lower court made a mistake, that's not a personal direction that we want to undercut the judge, but we need to correct the mistake so that justice is done for the litigants that appeared before us. Particularly, when trial court judges deal with crimes against persons and particularly crimes against children, I really believe the children of today are the champions of tomorrow, and so we need to make sure that justice is provided for them so they can be made whole.
All right, how about a hand for both of these candidates as well? One more Court of Appeals race to get to for the 10th District, 7-121, if Terry and Lisa could come up. And if you would go ahead, take a minute and introduce yourself to these folks.
Good evening, and thank you to all of the sponsors for putting on this event tonight. We really appreciate the opportunity to speak with the public. I'm Judge Lisa Sadler. I am your Court of Appeals judge. I am the incumbent in this race, and I am seeking my 4th term. I also have been your Franklin County judge for over 27 years. I started when I was 12. But what I also like to bring to everyone's attention is the depth of experience that I have as judge. I'm the only female judge in Franklin County to have been elected and served on the Franklin County Municipal Court, the Common Pleas Court, and the Court of Appeals, and also have sat by assignment as a visiting judge on the Ohio Supreme Court. That is a true honor. And I think that my depth of experience and my tenure uniquely qualifies me to continue to serve as your appellate judge. By way of background, I'm born and raised here in Franklin County. I'm a daughter of 2 public school teachers. I'm a proud graduate of Westerville Public Schools. I have a husband, a golden retriever, and an adult son. I was taught by my parents that you treat everyone always with dignity and respect.
And that'll have to be your last word here. We're trying to keep
Thank
it down
you
to a
so
minute.
much
Thank
for
you.
being here today. I
Your minute,
appreciate
please, to introduce yourself.
Thank you. I'm Judge Terry Jameson. Most of you in the audience I've met somewhere through my legal career. I moved here from West Virginia. My father is a coal miner, and when the coal mine started to shut down, I moved to Ohio. I started at Columbus State, went to Franklin, and transferred my credits there to graduate from Franklin, and then attended Capital University Law School as a working adult. I have been a small business owner. I owned my own insurance agency for 16 years. I had my own law firm for 8. I've been on the domestic relations and juvenile court for the last 7 years. In our court, I began a program that helps men and women to become employed that were behind on their child support. I saved you hundreds of thousands of dollars of tax dollars over incarceration by helping men and women to become employed.
Okay.
I would like to go...
Take the minutes up, but you can take the first, you can keep standing. You take the first question. Judge, tell us about your judicial mentor or mentors, and how did he or she, how has that person affected your work on the bench?
I think my first mentor would be Judge Guy Reese. Judge Reese has the personality, he has the temperament, he is one of the more respected judges in Franklin County. I watched him as I practiced in front of all the judges in Franklin County and in other counties around the state of Ohio. But Judge Reese was so well respected because he had such a good judicial temperament. He treated everybody fairly and with respect, and I think that is what I bring to this court. I would like to point out that the 10th District also does a lot with election challenges. The election laws can be challenged in the 10th District. Your ability to get to the ballot and access to the ballot can happen in the 10th District. And you want a judge there that knows that and will be fair to make sure that you get access to the ballot as a candidate and your vote is protected.
Okay, and Judge, question to you, please.
I believe the question was, who was my mentor?
And how has that person affected maybe your actions on the bench?
Yes, and interestingly enough, Judge Guy Reese also was one of my mentors. We worked together in the city attorney's office. I represented the licensing board when I was in the city attorney's office. He became a judge, we became fast friends, and he is still supportive of me today. Also, Judge Eve Stratton on the Supreme Court. She was born and raised in Thailand and taught me a lot about a bigger community, a bigger world that's out there. But what these people and others throughout my life, because they didn't just have to be judges who were my mentors, taught me that we are all the same in so many ways. They taught me, judges, we are people too. We make the best decisions that we can based on our experience and the law. And I have served on this court for 18 years, and I ask that you return me to that court because I believe I've done a good job. I've handled these types of cases that Judge Jameson has mentioned. And if you'd like to know more about me, if you could please look up at judgesadler.com, I would appreciate it, and thank you so much.
Round of applause for these two judges joining us tonight. Thank you. Let's talk about representing, well, all of you, all of us in Congress. Let's talk about the 3rd District, if the candidates would make their way to the stage here. As they're getting seated, I do want to read a statement. We heard from, and I know the League of Women Voters and we at 10 TV, we heard from Representative Beatty's office today, and she did put out this statement, and she wanted us to read it to all of you because she is not here tonight. Dear League of Women Voters, I am sorry to miss this forum this evening, but I felt it was too important to represent the interests of my constituents and our community for the vote to provide $8.3 billion for the efforts to combat the coronavirus. This is an important first step by Congress to ensure that the government has the resources needed to combat this deadly virus and to keep Central Ohioans safe. And again, that's signed, you can see it right there from Representative Beatty. We'll let the other 3 candidates introduce themselves, starting with you.
Good evening. I'd like to first thank the organizers of tonight's forum. My name is Morgan Harper, and I am running to represent you for the 3rd Congressional District in U.S. Congress. I'm from here, but the real reason why I feel this is so necessary to do is because we have had a generation of political leadership that has sold us out. And they say they can't be here because of a vote, but that vote passed by over 400 people, and that is not enough. This is a generation of leadership that says they will run TV ads, that they're fighting back and standing up, but then brokering behind the scenes real estate deals that are gentrifying our communities. It is a generation of leadership that says it cares about financial literacy, but then makes money off of the payday lending industry and traps us in debt. We have to turn the page. This is not acceptable. We have to have representation that is for the people every single day,
all right, thank you.
Even when we don't have time to pay attention. And I will be that representative for the 3rd District.
If you will,
Vote for
please.
Morgan Harper.
And guys, please know, I'm not trying to be rude, but we are trying to keep this to a minute. So I am going to jump in when these 2 folks up here put the stop paper up, and you see that as well. You can go now. You get a full minute.
Thank you. And listen, I appreciate everybody coming out. It just kind of shows everybody, and you know, you're all out here for the betterment of this community, and I thank each and every one of you for coming out. I'm Mark Richardson. I'm running for Congress in this 3rd District. I'm a Republican. I'm the first Republican candidate to be endorsed by Franklin County in the last 3 elections. I'm pretty proud of that. First and foremost, I'm a United States Navy decorated veteran. I served 7.5 years in the Navy. I was part of Operation Eagle Claw, where I tried to rescue the hostages in Iran. I received a Presidential Unit Medal tacked onto me by President Carter. Spent 7.5 years in the military. While I was in the military, I furthered my education in the finance sector. After that, I spent 30 years in the financial end, putting people in homes and helping individuals start businesses. I'm ready to kind of take back this 3rd District and get some things together. And if I could get your vote, I sure would appreciate it. I look forward to telling you a little bit more why you should be electing me. Thank you.
Okay.
How's everybody doing? I'm Police Officer Lane, just a regular citizen. Just decided to run for Congress because I see how Washington's broken. I've been living in Columbus since 1993, born in Birmingham, Alabama in 1960. I left there when I was about 5 years old. I went to stay with my mother until I was about 11. Left there when I was 11, stayed in the foster homes, group homes, and stuff of that nature. Got my first apartment when I was 15. Became a parent some years later. Was a business owner for multiple years. And what I want to do basically is come up in here and do what I think is best for my community. And what I do is I go out and talk to people, find exactly what's going on in my community. What I see when I have a congressperson up in Washington, creating a lot of division. And so that division for me is something we don't need. I think I can go to Congress and eliminate the division. Because right now, if you divide them, you're going to be conquered. And when I look at the Congress people, all they want to talk about is defeating Donald Trump. That's all they hear. And for me, I think he's doing a great job. And I just want to be able to go there to help him in this job.
All right, Mr. Lenny, you can stay standing and answer the first question. In your mind, what is the #1 need in the 3rd District?
Housing. The #1 need is housing, because when I talk to different people, because I do some door knocking. The #1 need is housing. When I go to the district, I ask the different community people what's their first thing. When I door knock, and I say, what's the 3 main priorities? First thing they will say is the housing. The gentrification areas, whereas the cities putting money into the areas, and what happened, they are getting these houses where you can't afford to live there. People are being moved out and they can't afford. I think we need to eliminate that. The money is just being distributed, it's not being distributed properly. The drug addiction within the areas. I live on Woodrow Avenue, and there's a lot of drugs over in the area. Last couple of weeks, a couple people got murdered. It's the drug addiction, housing, and then those are things I think are going on in my district.
Mark, #1 need for the 3rd District?
Well, I think the #1 need, not only in the 3rd District, but it's as a nation, that's unifying this 3rd District. You know, I've been to a number of town halls where I'm the only Republican, and I bet you wouldn't see the other 2 Democrats going to a Republican town hall. But I've been out there and I've been talking, because we need to unify this district, okay, first and foremost, before you can do anything. And how to do that is, if I am elected within the first month or so, I will come back to the community and I will invite Democrats, Republicans, Independents to unite, to come together for a common cause to fix the problems that we have. The other #1 would be housing. And I've got about an 8-point plan to fix that. And it starts with the #1 issue to fix housing, and that's with the individuals, that's with your credit and your credit scoring. I have to totally repeal and reform the credit scoring and credit reporting. From there, you could build on that, but I've got an 8-point plan to do that, to bring a first-time home buyer program to the country. So.
Thank you. And Morgan, your thoughts on the #1 need of this district?
There are a number of needs facing the 3rd District around housing, jobs that pay enough to live, the climate. But again, the #1 issue is that we have representatives that are not actually free to fight for us, that are making money off of their positions and that are taking money from corporations and are compromised in the fight for those other policy priorities that we have. And so I am making a commitment to you as your representative that I will not be one of those traditional politicians. How will you know? 1, I'm pledging to not take any money from corporations, just like I've done since day 1 of this campaign. 2, I am self-imposing term limits. I'm not going to become a traditional politician because I'm not going to stay there forever. Right? And it's not about me, and it's not about my career, and it's not about getting rich. It's about getting things done for this district. And 3, within the first 100 days of winning this primary on March 17th, I will be hosting a community town hall to continue moving this legislative agenda forward, engaging people in this political process, and maintaining our grassroots movement that we have built over the course of this campaign.
All right, thank you. Mark, thanks for your Mark, we can start for question #2 here. What would you specifically do, what would you propose in Congress to engage more growth, support, and development for minority-owned businesses in the 3rd District?
Well, for minority-owned business, to establish more growth, what I would do is come back to the community and come back with the state legislators to design a specific program to work together with your state legislators to grow the minority business. I would have minority-owned or minority city incubators for entrepreneurs to get them all together to find out exactly what their needs are, what type of industry should be brought in here. Take a complex coalition of your state legislators and the federal legislators and unite them together, bring them together to find out what's needed in this district, what industry would help prosper entrepreneurs in this area. That's the first thing.
Morgan, why don't you go second on this particular question, if you would.
Well, first we need to be real about what we're talking about when we say minority-owned businesses. And that is a general issue. The fact that in the city of Columbus, which makes up a lot of the 3rd District, that we have minority-owned businesses that are only getting 8% of city contracts. But let's break that down to Black-owned businesses, which is a specific priority for the 30% of Black residents that make up the 3rd District. We need to be real about the challenges in accessing capital for Black business owners. That is one of the things that I'm talking about when I say that I'm going to propose legislation that will address systemic reparations, creating a funding stream of capital for Black business owners to support addressing the $100,000 racial wealth gap that we see between Black and white families that is connected to a history of racial discrimination here in the 3rd District and across the country.
Second question to you, please.
Well, I run a minority business myself, and what I see is that there's a lot of red tape. A lot of people, when you go out to try to get stuff for your business, there's no actual people that you can go to. They send you to different organizations. There's no real organization to help the minority business. So when you try to, what I feel they need is a better organization, better communication. There is not that available. So what the government normally send you is to the SBA, which is the Small Business Administration, which is useless. Doesn't really do nothing. They send some guys out to your business, supposed to help you to organize your business, which is useless. So really, there's no real practical situations to help the minority business right now. When you do it, you try to go out there to try to get some help, and the government right now don't have any actual working situations. So you have to have some working situations where you have actual contact people. You don't have actual contact people to help your business. There is no funding for your business. So when you try to go out and ask the government about different entities, they're not available.
I tell you what, why don't you stand right there and you can start off our 3rd question, then we'll work our way back down. Do you support reparations for American descendants of slavery? If yes, what would you do to fight for that? And if no, please explain why not.
Well, that's a hard question. I'm a black man, but it's a hard question. Because basically there is no real way to generate that reparations. What generation do you start on? Do you start on my generation? Do you start on the generation before that? How would you give that reparations? So I really don't support it.
Okay. Mark, you can go next, please.
That is a good question. How I would handle it would be, once again, is I would come back to the district and I would have a town hall with all the constituents to try to find out what best would suit them. I'm not saying I'm for it and I'm not saying that I'm against it. I would have to judge my decision based on the constituents in this area and what they feel would be best. That's how I would vote on it. I would reach out to the constituents and find out their thoughts and what they would demand in something like that, and then my vote would be predicated by the people and what their decision would be. So.
Okay. Morgan?
Well, on this issue, actually, my Republican opponents are actually sounding quite similar to my opponent who couldn't make it in not having a clear position on the issue of reparations. Since day one of launching this campaign, I have said that we need to be backing and be a national leader to push for systemic reparations. The studying has been done. We now need to move towards solutions. And how do we know that this is an issue, like I referenced before, $100,000 racial wealth gap that did not just happen and did not end with slavery. It continued into the 20th century with housing policy that prevented home ownership in our community. And we have seen, while my opponent was profiting off of gentrification, we have seen the 20% decline in home ownership as a result of the foreclosure crisis as well, right here in the 3rd District. We have to be a leader in introducing, and I have made a commitment to introduce legislation around systemic reparations.
Okay, why don't you stay standing? And for the last question here, can you name a member of the opposite party, opposite of yours, in Congress, who you would reach out to if you're elected And then what way would you try to talk with that particular lawmaker to reach a bipartisan solution to a need out here in the 3rd District?
I'm very, very open to working with anyone. And in fact, I have talked to a lot of Republicans throughout the campaign who support the values that I stand for. That this is a community where we believe that everyone deserves to get a fair shot. And that is not complicated. Housing, healthcare, jobs that pay enough to live. But until we have leadership, and I think this is actually the thing that needs to unite us moving forward, leadership that is committed to being for the people, not always about the position or maintaining their position, but for the people. That is how we can build coalitions to actually get legislation passed that will serve this district and our entire country.
Okay, unlike my opponents on the other side, this is my platform, bipartisanship. Being a veteran, I'm part of a political action committee at DC called With Honor, and that's their platform, is bipartisanship. You look at our Congress and it's broken right now. It's hyper-partisan political theatrics on both sides. Okay, and you can find out right now in Congress it's less than 17% of them are veterans. Back in the 60s, 70s, and 80s, about 80% of them were veterans. And they were able to reach across the aisle with that common bond. You know, they've already given the oath, which I did about 30 years ago, to put my country ahead of any party, any political, any race, anything. I've already pledged that. I've already done that. So I have a plan, and I made a pledge to meet with 2 people of the opposing party every month in order to build a relationship. I made a pledge to support at least 2 pieces of legislation a year on a bipartisan level. We need to unite this country instead of dividing it.
Thank you. You have the last word.
For us being bipartisanship, I was a Democrat prior to becoming a Republican. So what I am is a person who can go both sides. So I'll talk to anybody.
Put the mic in, there you go.
I'll talk to anybody. So basically what I do is I talk to a Republican, I talk to Democrats about us being American citizens first. So I see the division. That's why I decided to go after the Republicans. So the Democrats to me are very divisive. And for me, personally, as a black man and as a Democrat before, the division of our country has caused a lot of fracture. So what I would do is go and able to talk to both sides. Because right now in Washington, D.C., if you look at Washington and look at the division and the anger, I can see the anger and the frustration. So as a citizen, I don't like that anger. I don't like the frustration. They're not doing anything. You're not getting any legislation done because of the anger. So what I would do, personally, would go over there and talk to both sides. I would go in there and get them in one room, and we're not going to leave until we make a decision, get something done, make some policies. Policies are not being made right now. It's one-sided. I don't like that.
Okay. How about a hand for these 3 candidates? Thank you very much. And we thank you for coming out tonight. A packed house, as several people have mentioned, and this is nothing but great to have all of you here and you wanting to listen to all these folks, and we know you're going to go out there and make sure that your vote is heard come Election Day. Thank you again. Enjoy your evening.